The mission is simple: to help high achievers naturally eliminate emotional and physical obstacles so they can optimize their life for higher achievement. Welcome. You have just entered the Genesis Zone. Good day and welcome to the Genesis Zone show. This is Dr. Brian Brown. Thank you for taking time out of your busy Thursday to join us. The term anti-aging is the title and is the verbiage that I use in today's title for the show. You know, it's a subject that has a lot of controversy due to the implications and maybe even societal impacts that it can have. You know, critics argue that the term anti-aging promotes ageism by suggesting that aging is inherently negative and something to be fought against. They argue that the term perpetuates unrealistic beauty standards and pressures individuals, particularly women, to strive for eternal youth. Furthermore, some argue that the focus on anti-aging detracts from the importance of embracing the natural aging process and the wisdom and experience that come with it. Proponents, on the other hand, argue that the term is simply a marketing strategy used in the cosmetics and healthcare industry to promote products and services aimed at maintaining a youthful appearance and well-being. The controversy surrounding the term anti-aging reflects a broader societal debate about ageism, body image, and the cultural obsession with youth. Now, here's what I think about the term anti-aging. It's simply a term that people recognize, to be quite frank with you, no other reason. Do I believe we can prevent aging altogether? Well, the answer is no. Do I believe we can slow or in some cases halt some of the negative effects of aging? The answer is a resounding yes. In fact, the better term to use might be preventive aging instead of anti-aging, because there's growing evidence that we may be able to prevent a lot of negative consequences that have been associated with aging in the past 30, 40, 50, or even 100 years. Now, in this first study, I want to talk about atrial fibrillation. Now, there's a good chance you know someone who has it, even if they've not disclosed it to you, or they may not even know that they have it yet, but they're living with it and don't realize it. Atrial fibrillation is a heart arrhythmia on the atrial side of the heart, where the atrial side of the heart pumps faster, basically. It fibrillates and it doesn't pump completely than the ventricular side. So things get out of rhythm, blood flow gets out of rhythm, and it can lead to heart attacks and strokes. It's estimated that around 2.7 to 6.1 million Americans are affected with atrial fibrillation. This means that 25% of individuals age 40 and above will be diagnosed with atrial fibrillation at some point in their life. Think about that. That's 1/4 of the entire population in the United States. And guess what? With obesity and hypertension on the rise, the numbers for atrial fibrillation are projected to go up. The anti-aging or preventive aging strategy that I'm going to share with you comes from a 5-year randomized controlled trial with nearly 2,500 participants who are age 60 years and older. The participants were divided into 3 groups: those who got placebo or sugar pill, those who got vitamin D3, 1,600 international units daily, and those who got vitamin D3, 3,200 international units daily. Now, here's what the study found after 5 years. 76 participants in the placebo group, the sugar pill group, developed atrial fibrillation, while those who took the lower dose of vitamin D3 of 1,600 IUs daily developed atrial fibrillation at a rate of 27% less than the placebo group. And those who took vitamin D3, 3,200 international units daily, developed atrial fibrillation at a rate that was 32% lower than the placebo group. Now, these may not sound like significant numbers, but they're hugely significant numbers. Extrapolate those out to the greater population and millions, 4, 5, 6 million people, and a 32% reduction is incredibly significant. Okay, here's what's important to know about this study. There is one previous study very similar to this one that showed there was no benefit with vitamin D3 in reducing atrial fibrillation risk. However, the devil is in the details. You need to know that the standard daily recommended dose, which quite frankly, I think is a joke, is 800 international units of vitamin D3 daily. And the study that proved that vitamin D3 didn't work for atrial fibrillation, and that's what made the public headlines in the evening news, they only use 400 international units of vitamin D3. I mean, seriously, this is a joke. That's why you have to dig into the details when you read these studies or you hear about these studies on the nightly news. And sometimes when you dig far enough, you may even find that some, if not all of the researchers who conduct these, quite frankly, lame, very weak studies are on the payroll of the big pharma companies that make the drugs that treat the conditions they're trying to prove that the natural things don't work for. Now, next up is another rather large study with about 16,800 people who were randomized into a placebo group, again, a sugar pill group, or a group that received 60,000 international units of vitamin D3 per month. And by the way, that equals to about 2,000 international units per day. Now, these people were again followed for 5 years. So what did the study find? Well, in those who took vitamin D3, 60,000 international units per month, they had a 9% overall reduction in any type of cardiovascular event. And they were measuring this as stroke or heart attack, by the way. Okay. Now, more specifically, this translated to a 19% reduction in myocardial infarction or heart attack in layman's terms. But no difference was seen in the rate of stroke prevention. But it must be noted that a study published in the journal Antioxidants reported that vitamin D3 does appear to prevent more serious neurological damage when a person does have a stroke. But this particular study didn't differentiate that. They just said it didn't prevent strokes. It was basically equal with those who took placebo, the stroke rate was. But there's a 19% reduction in heart attack. I mean, that's huge, guys. I mean, it's huge. Now, here's what I'd like to add to this. When it comes to other studies related to vitamin D3, it's been well established that daily doses, hear me when I say this, daily doses of vitamin D3 are superior to weekly doses and monthly doses. So I'd personally like to see a 5-year study comparing daily doses to monthly doses. I'm just throwing that out there. In my clinic, we dose daily doses, not weekly doses, not monthly doses, because the literature shows that daily doses are superior in almost every way. All right, let's switch gears to cancer. This is another thing that as we age is on everybody's mind. Now, ladies, I apologize ahead of time. I'll give you a bit of warning here. This particular study was done with Swedish men, and men who are in the United States, we're just a melting pot here. We're not Swedish men, but I think we can extrapolate some of this data, and we're going to go over what I think we can extrapolate here. So for the ladies, there are 2 cancers that are discussed here that also occur at very prominent rates among women. Of course, there's one that doesn't, and it's prostate cancer. I'm sure you can guess that. Now, this study was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, last week, and it looked at cardiovascular fitness as it relates to the risk for and death rates of colon cancer, lung cancer, and prostate cancer. Now, this study was conducted with nearly 178,000 men over a 9.6-year period. So it's a very large study, and it was over a long period of time. So what we call a longitudinal study. Now, here's how the numbers panned out. When it came to risk for developing cancer, those who had very healthy cardiovascular health and exercise routines had about a 2% lower risk for developing lung and colon cancer. For those with prostate cancer, there really wasn't a decrease in risk related to exercise. So it was only with the colon cancer and the lung cancer that we saw about a 2% lower risk for developing those cancers, and no risk and no reduction in prostate cancer. However, here's where it gets really fun. When you look at death rates, okay, mortality rates, those who had very healthy cardiovascular health and exercise routines saw a drastic reduction in death. Now let's look at the specifics of this for prostate cancer. I'll do prostate cancer first, so women, you can tune into the lung and the colon cancer next. With prostate cancer, this translated to a 33% death rate reduction for prostate cancer in men who had lower cardiovascular health and exercise routines. This translated to a 43% death rate reduction for those with prostate cancer and those with moderate cardiovascular health and exercise routines. And get this, it was a 71% death rate reduction for prostate cancer patients in those with high cardiovascular health and exercise routines. Why is that? Well, I know why that is, because we have established in the literature that insulin resistance, meaning blood sugars that are a little out of control, insulin that's a little out of control because we're not exercising, we're not burning the excess glucose, we're not using up the excess insulin in our exercise with our muscle activation, it actually feeds cancer. There are some cancer treatments that involve lowering hemoglobin A1C, lowering the blood glucose, lowering the insulin resistance in order to accomplish what needs to be accomplished. In fact, many theorize that cancer feeds off of sugar. And if you starve the cancer cell of sugar, you actually move further down the road. So I think that's where this cardiovascular study is going. So 33% reduction with mild or low cardiovascular health, 43% reduction with moderate cardiovascular health, and 71% death rate reduction for those with high cardiovascular health in prostate cancer patients. Now let's look at the rates for lung cancer. Now, this was interesting. The findings only suggested that those with high rates of cardiovascular health saw any benefit in death rate reduction. So what did the number look like? 59% death rate reduction for lung cancer patients and those with high rates of cardiovascular health and exercise routines. So the higher, the better. I hope you're getting that message. Now let's look at colon cancer. Those with low cardiovascular health and exercise routines did not have any benefit in colon cancer death rate, okay? Now those with moderate cardiovascular and health and exercise routines saw a 28% reduction in death rate, okay? And those with high cardiovascular health and exercise routines had a 37% reduction in death rate with colon cancer. I mean, these numbers are huge, guys. I mean, huge. I can't emphasize that enough. And I think it boils down to decreasing inflammation, improving immune function, decreasing insulin, and decreasing blood sugar. I think it does. We're talking about globally all of these things. These studies didn't go into it. I just know from other studies that these things relate to cancer development, cancer propagation, and cancer death. And when we can take care of these things, we start removing these players from the table, everything starts getting better. Now, the last study I'll leave you with is really simple, and it kind of brings it all home, especially for the cancer study that we just talked about. A study published by the University of Cambridge just last week followed just over 1,400 adults aged 65 and older for about 6 years. Again, another longitudinal study here. They found that those older adult females who spent at least 38 minutes per day and older adult males who spent at least 33 minutes per day on average performing moderate to vigorous cardiovascular exercise saw the following benefits. They realized a 6.9% reduction in early death. And this was all-cause death, death for any reason, death for natural causes, death for heart attack, death from stroke, death from cancer, kidney disease, you name it. A 6.9% reduction in all-cause mortality or all-cause death compared to those with a sedentary lifestyle. And there was a 4.2% reduction in hospitalizations compared to their sedentary counterparts. Now, I don't know about you, but how many times have you heard of somebody going into a hospital and they get worse because they get a hospital-acquired infection and they just start spiraling downhill? The goal here as we age is to stay out of hospitals. And if you look at the population age 65 and older, it's the fastest growing segment of the population, and they're living longer. It's a huge percentage of the population. And if we can reduce hospitalizations by 4.2% by simply moderate to vigorous cardiovascular exercise every day, then why wouldn't we do it? And I think if you look at these last two studies that we looked at, there's a theme here. Cardiovascular exercise is important. So the moral of the story is this: the best one thing you can do to prevent aging is move, and move with a purpose every single day. Women, this study shows 38 minutes a day. Guys, 33 minutes a day. That's all it takes. Moderate to vigorous exercise. You're going to reduce your chances of developing cancer. You're going to reduce, if you do have cancer, the death rate or your risk of death related to that cancer. You're going to reduce your all-cause mortality, your risk for dying, and you're going to reduce your hospitalizations. It's huge. Okay. That's all I've got for today. If you could do me a favor and like or share or both, that would be great. This particular episode, we need your support out there. I feel like we share some amazing information that most other people don't share, because I spend hours going through the literature looking for the latest news that I can share with you. And I think more people need to know about this. So if you would like and share, comment, if you will, below, and I will see you on the other side. As always, most grateful and most a heart full of gratitude for everybody that shows up here on a regular basis, everybody that comments on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Thank you so much. Most grateful, most trusted. Until next time, stay in the zone. I'm Dr. Brian Brown.